Hi, good evening. It's Friday evening and time for Hold No Bars with yours truly, Manzoor Nadir on MTV. Tonight, update on elections, and we are approaching the Christmas holiday of December 25th. Okay, let's get an update on elections. Last week, when we had hold no bars. We had just seen the results of the elections in the United Kingdom. They have since had a new cabinet, and I think they're already making preparations for the first sitting of the House of Commons, which is their National Assembly, in a few days' time. So yet, we are today 1 year exactly after the passing of the no confidence motion. Tomorrow, actually, about 8 p.m., 8:30 p.m., would be the first anniversary of the no confidence motion. And most of us would remember where we were when we got the news that the coalition government, the AFC APNU coalition government, had been defeated in a no confidence motion in the National Assembly, and all was expecting elections by March the 20th, 2020. So we are now almost 9 months after that, literally 9 months after that, and we've had elections in no less than 8 Commonwealth Caribbean countries, and we're still to have elections in Guyana. It's announced for March the 2nd. But what has happened since our last program? Since our last program, we had another split decision in the Elections Commission. And last week, when we came on the program, we spoke of 20,556 names were on a list of persons who would have been regarded as new registrants by the Elections Commission. It was 20,556 persons who were regarded as new registrants by the Elections Commission as a result of the house-to-house registration that was done, the one-sided house-to-house registration that was done earlier this year. But I shouldn't say earlier, the latter half of the year that ended in the chairperson, Madam Justice Claudette Singh, terminating that exercise. Okay, well, after that, we had a list of names, all who were registered, thrown at us. And we went about extracting from that list of 370 odd all the persons who were perfect matches in the preliminary list of electors and this list that was produced by GCOM. GCOM said they did a lot of cross-matching, and they ended up with 35,000 new registrants. And after some internal checks, that list of 35,000 persons was whittled down by almost a half, ended up being 20,556 names. In the commission, the People's National Congress coalition commissioners wanted to do a sample, a 10% sample of this list, and then to incorporate these 20,000 persons into the next list that will come out, which is called the Revised List of Electors, the RLE. The opposition commissioners from the People's Progressive Party Civic opposed that, and the leader of the opposition had insisted that we should do a house-to-house verification of these 20,556. Last week when we were here, the PPP had already launched into the fields to start checking on this list of 20,556. And what we had found in many instances, as much as 40% of this list of 20,556, 40% of this list had names that were perfect matches already with the preliminary list of electors. So I was joking with Chancellor, retired Justice Kennard last evening. I said, you've always been famous, but you've now been made more famous because Justice Kennard, who has been serving this country for so many decades, showed up as one of the persons who was a new registrant. Exactly under Justice Kennard's name was another very famous name, attorney at law Jailal Kissoon. Literally, they lived next to each other, and Jailal was a former minister under the People's National Congress. I think he was, if not labor, agriculture at one time. So we started throwing up these lists, and I'll tell you, on the East Bank you had about 1,148 names, and in our checks we found that of those 1,148 names, you had about 40% perfect matches. So armed with this evidence, and then let's take Greenfield for example. Just round the corner from here, as soon as you get past the bridge, you will find just south of the stadium, Greenfield, right? And you had names like Pratipal Singh, right? You had names like Dennis Moore. You had names like Winston Rambaran. All persons who have been around a while and have voted in so many elections, they are listed as new registrants. And so this evidence, this mountain of evidence, was produced at the GCOM meeting on Tuesday. Yet, in the face of all this evidence, I think probably led by Vincent Alexander, he was still insisting that there is no need for house-to-house verification of this list of 20,556 names. How can Vincent Alexander and the government commissioners sit in the face of this evidence and still insist that there is no need for house-to-house verification? And he leaves the meeting and still insisting the same thing. And the PPP has said that, look, if you import these 20,000 names, you contaminate this list. And after a very, I think, aggressive meeting, Justice Claudette Singh, the chairman of the Elections Commission, voted on the side of the opposition that there be house-to-house verification of this list of 20,556 names. So I am still left perplexed that David Arthur Granger, who said he is a wise and prudent leader, will still allow his commissioners, in the face of all of this, to barefacedly oppose verification of this list of 20,556 names. So GCOM had a press conference after the meeting, I think it was Wednesday, and at the press conference, Mr. Lowenfield makes a public confession, and I want to say confession in the strongest possible way, because he said, look, Of the 20,556 names, they have found the most perfect matches in Georgetown. I think they had 4,000 and something in Georgetown. On the East Bank, he said 1,148. On the East Coast, 2,500 and something. So when you just add up Georgetown, East Coast, and East Bank, we're speaking of close to 7,000 perfect matches names that came through all that scrutiny and fingerprint matching came through as new registrants. Persons who would have been voting for years, persons who would have been recorded prior to this last house-to-house registration and issued ID cards. So it sent a lot of interesting waves through one's mind, because remember, we're supposed to have had the benefit of matching fingerprints. So how could 35,000 names, fingerprints, not match? Yes, you could take a fingerprint in a certain way and things like that. But you know what? Many times you don't need to have a perfect way of rolling the fingers. Good? The computer can fill in those ridges, the loops, the circles, all the different characteristics of a fingerprint. But they came up first with 35,000 names that were new registrants. So, and I'm sure when it comes out, you probably will have just a few thousand persons as genuine new registrants. So how could almost 30,000 persons pass undetected with fingerprint matches? Undetected, their fingerprints did not match. So one is left to wonder what happened there. And so names like Justice Kennard, Winston Rambaran, Pritipal Singh, Dennis Moore, Jailal Kissoon popped up as new registrants. So something didn't go wrong with the matching exercise. And then the other thing that didn't go right was, after GCOM did their cross-checking, the 35,000 was whittled down by 15,000. It became 20,556. Yet, us just perusing the list, taking the list of new registrants that was supplied to us and matching it against those who are already on the PLE, and we start throwing up all these names. So immediately now, over 10,000 names, what would have been duplicates, would have had to be erased from the process. But let me assure you that the PPPC, and I've been checking, the coalition has also been accompanying the GCOM officials to do these verifications. And we are yet to hear the results. We have our recordings, we have our notations. I'm sure the government scrutineers do have theirs. But the bottom line is, this house-to-house registration that was imposed upon the nation as a means of delaying the elections, is that exercise. We've always condemned it in the PPPC as being a waste of money. It has run into billions of dollars, and what we have said is proven to be quite accurate. That it's a waste of money, and it's an exercise in not getting a good list, but producing something that can eventually be manipulated. Okay, we are going to be opening the lines now. So if you have any questions on this list of 20,556 names and what is happening out in the fields now, let us hear from you. You can also give us your views on, and those of you who have the expertise, how come over 25,000 fingerprints did not match? Over 25,000 fingerprints did not match, but name, age, address, profession, all are identical. So there must be an explanation. I don't want to offer one at this stage, but I want to offer you the assurance that anything they're throwing at us, we're going to, with a lot of diligence and a great amount of energy, we're going to attack the task of cross-checking, double-checking, and ensuring that we don't get a list that's over-bloated. Hi, good evening. You're on the air.
Good evening. These people are doing them thing that they know good, they will never play elections, trying all the best they could to deceive people, and that's their motive.
Mm-hmm.
I'll deceive people. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's our first caller. And you can't blame him because remember, we had a house-to-house registration that was signed off by an illegal chairman. And then it started with David Arthur Granger saying that the current list has over 200,000 transactions that need to be reviewed. Basically, the 200,000 transaction he is, I think, I shouldn't speculate about it, but 200,000 transaction, in my view, is claiming that the list is bloated by about 200,000. So then we move from that. They produced 370,000, the records of 370,000 persons were supposedly registered during the house-to-house. They sent that to be cross-matched. They sent back the results. They gave the opposition all 370,000 names to check. We started checking. Then they wanted to take off all the persons with ID cards who didn't uplift their ID cards. So we started doing that. We fought that, and so that issue, the leader of the opposition has waged an unrelenting war that we can't take anybody off the list. And then they throw at us now this list of 20,566. But you know what? We're going to continue to work hard to ensure that we are going to stand up to the task of checking, as I said, and double checking and rechecking whatever they throw at us. So elections are now not too far away. Not too far away. March the 2nd. And already we're seeing some of the signs of elections. Instead of fairy lights, we're seeing flags. And I'm sure you're going to see flags from all the parties. But in a couple of days' time, it's going to be Christmas. And let me take this opportunity to, on behalf of all of us at MTV and Hold No Bars, and on behalf of my family and I, to wish you and yours a very Merry Christmas and a very healthy and prosperous New Year. We're going to get a chance at New Year greetings too if you want next Friday, because we are going to be on the air next Friday also. But this is going to be the last program before Christmas 2019. So if you do want to call in on Christmas greeting on the lighter note, please do also. Let me just check the messages at this time. Come on, come on, come on. Okay, let's just check here. Cancel and great. No messages and no calls. So I guess people are still busy with all the preparations um, for the Christmas holidays. If you're going to go in town tomorrow and Sunday and Monday and Tuesday, see if you can double up so we could reduce the amount of vehicles going into the city. Hi, good evening. Hold no bars.
I guess, sir, that you is a old politician.
I know, you can see all the gray hair, right?
You can't see me gray hair.
Okay.
But I've been from day one in this politics. I'm just 8 years old.
Okay.
So imagine how long I have on this land. I'm only 8 years now.
Wow. That's a long time.
So why you must tell these people about this history of Guyana, man?
Uh-huh.
Do you know what is Black Friday?
Yes.
Or when is Black Friday?
Yes. I think it was February 16th, 1963.
62.
62. Yeah.
1962, the 16th of February.
Right. I got
Now
the...
I hear people saying that any 14th fall on a Friday
It's Black
is
Friday.
Good Friday.
Yeah.
Black Friday.
Right.
Now I want these people to know something.
Mm-hmm.
Why your politicians don't learn these people and these things? What cause problem in Guyana?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like me. I'm like me. You hear me only 8 years.
Okay.
And I was proposed to marry in 1962.
Mm-hmm.
I did marry in 1962. What happened? The place where I was working, so happened these people there
Mm-hmm.
burned down the whole of Lamar Street.
Mm-hmm.
The whole of Water Street. Where I working now, I got no job. How am I going to get money for marriage now?
Mm-hmm. And that's why they call it Black Friday, because I remember looking out from All Boys Town, looking north, and all you saw was black smoke all over in the horizon.
Yeah, at those times I was in the pensions.
Ah, not too far. Yes.
Right. So you see, Mr. Nadir,
Mm-hmm.
I think you are supposed to like enlighten these youths
Yeah.
about these history.
Well, you know, a lot of us spoke to our children, the friends of our children, the younger folks, and in 2011 and 2015, you know, a lot of the young people said, you know, that was the past, things change, and people change.
And people change.
Yeah, and people change, right?
Yeah, they change for better or for worse.
So, so this is one of the excuses you have, right? But you put the PNC back in power, and you see they haven't changed, right?
Exactly.
And as we speak now, I think just a little while ago, David Arthur Granger announced with big fanfare the first commercial production of oil coming out of Guyana. That's this evening, right? You know, so he's proud of oil production. He must be ashamed of his record in upholding the Constitution, right? So things change, and the more they change, it's the more the PNC remains stuck in their bullyism and their dictatorship. Thank you.
I want you to know something.
Tell me.
You know, in 1962,
Mm-hmm.
when they were marching down the street,
Mm-hmm.
and if you meet a dogger man or a dogger girl,
Mm-hmm.
you know they're beating out the Indian out of them.
They didn't used to say Indian, the second we can beat the coolie out here.
Out of them, right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And you see now when they get power, what they was there?
Right?
They're going to jail you if
Right.
you only use coolie and black.
Yes. Okay, pal. Well, thanks a lot, right? Good. Let's get a few more persons to call in.
Yeah, I
Good.
know. Everybody got to get a chance. But what me would tell you,
Uh-huh.
your politician must try and expose these things to these young people that don't know these things.
Right.
You understand?
Good.
Only men like me who are like 8-year-old
Mm-hmm.
might get them knowledge. Tell
Well,
you what me I tell you here.
I know. I wasn't 8 then, and I know you would have been closer to 16 at that time, right? So,
Bigger than that one.
okay. But take care, man.
Yes,
Good.
thank you very much.
You're welcome. Great. So, someone sharing a little bit of our history, the bad part of our history, right? Um, the 60s, the early 60s, 62 to 63. So, yes, I was mentioning that David Arthur Granger with big fanfare. You can't announce the dissolution of Parliament, right? But he could announce oil production. Announcing oil production will save him. He already spent over $1 trillion in the last 4 years. And what do we have to show for it? If you put more money in his hands, it's the same thing, it will go down the drain. So yes, the powers that be stepped up the production schedule for oil. I'm sure that there would have been some amount of influencing by the government on the concessionaire to see if they can step up this oil production so that this would be a big thing. The coalition government brought oil to Guyana, brought the production of oil, and we're seeing the fruits of that. This is a big thing, yes. But if the coalition government had been faithful to the Constitution and sincere to democracy, we would not have been in this position today, and I'm sure you'd have been seeing oil on the EPPC government. There was no need, and we have to refresh, and thanks for that to that caller. There was no need up to the 30th of April for any house-to-house list. There was registration, an election could have been held because there was a live, valid list of electors. A list that was refreshed for local government elections in 2018 November. And so that list had a life until the end of April 2019. But with all the manipulations and all the maneuverings, we saw the government hanging on to power, and now we're in a dictatorship. Hi, good evening. You're on the air.
Hello?
Hi, you're on the air.
I feel time years past, and it is the same pulling down our one of the Indian and black. And it's the time we stop the thing. Here from here going same thing over and over. The time for the past already, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. Talk to me.
Here, the caller wanted to talk about our history. You want to forget our history? Come on. We can't be convenient. David Arthur Granger is a historian, and all would remind each other about our failure to be reminded of history to the detriment of repeating it. So if a person wants to call and say, listen, let us talk also about our history. Our history is bad racism against each other. You want to deny that? It ain't changed. Social cohesion hasn't changed it. David Arthur Granger hasn't helped it. When you put all the buses and where they go to pick up the kids. So the children in tuition will say the buses is past them. So we shouldn't talk about it? Come on. And you're talking about social cohesion? We can't be convenient. We cannot be convenient. And so we have to speak about our history. And if we don't accept what is the problem, you're not going to find effective solutions to them. And those are old mantras. Old mantras. And I always say that, look, it's going to be a convenient ear who will want to forget that. You're on the air, hold no bars.
Comrade Manzoor, good night to you, sir.
Good evening.
Comrade, you see what I was saying? You see how Boris Johnson campaign, his mantra was, we will leave Brexit, we will leave Brexit, your please a better mandate.
Mm-hmm.
I hope, because I hasn't heard my party are saying nothing about CARICOM so far.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start a campaign, or let's our mantra be we're leaving CARICOM.
Mm-hmm.
You would see how much votes we would get additional to what will happen. And I'm asking all my Guyanese brothers and sisters who would be going to the polls to vote on the 2nd of March. Please don't get carried away with all of these other parties. TNC have their own thing in place that they wanted to split this vote. We are asking our comrades, our friends, and everybody, all Guyanese, come out and vote united, and we will be stronger. We'll see how Boris Johnson came out with much more power and strength to negotiate for the people of England. That's what we want the PPP to get, comrade. Mm-hmm. That's what we want the PPP to get, with your strength and all the leaders who will be campaigning for us. We wish you all well, and y'all please be strong. Please note what CARICOM are doing us, especially when the PPP is in government or out of government. We are being penalized by CARICOM. Please, comrade, y'all please campaign for us. We wanted to leave CARICOM because better deal would always strike us. You have a good night, comrade.
Thanks a lot. And I remember Guy Exit CARICOM is going to be the hashtag. We are concentrating on ensuring that we can be well prepared for these elections. A lot of work has to be done, and so I haven't spoken a lot about leaving CARICOM, but Manzoor Nadir can't speak for the PPP. The PPP has to make that decision. They have an exco and they have a membership. But I'll tell you, yours truly, I've said it before, I am pro exiting CARICOM. But let me just explain. Exiting CARICOM is not abandoning our commitment to sisters and brothers in other countries of the region, especially those that share a common culture and history with us. Good? And I said that we should have a bilateral one-on-one with these agencies. Hi, good evening. You're on the air. Hi, good evening. Hold no bars. You're on the air.
Hi, good evening to you, Mr. Nadir.
Hi, good evening. I was about to cut you off. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Nadir. Some time ago, Mr. Granger stated that the list had 200,000 incorrect entries on the voters list.
Mm-hmm. He said transactions, I think. Huh?
Transaction, yes. Let's say transactions.
Right.
He wanted a credible list.
Mm-hmm.
I fully agree with him. We must have a credible list.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened at GCOM the other day, boggles the mind of the world, not Guyanese.
Mm-hmm.
It's because this overwhelming evidence that was before them,
Mm-hmm.
they were insisting, not wanting verification.
Mm-hmm.
Now tell me something. If you don't have anything to hide,
Mm-hmm.
you are about you want everything to be transparent, you are there for that.
Mm-hmm.
And these people them are representing Mr. Arthur Granger.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants a credible list.
Mm-hmm.
Why would these men just toss their credibility in the rubbish bin?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Excellent. Couldn't have put it better, sir. Thank you. Okay, let me just check again. ExxonMobil begins production of oil. That's a message that's come true. Yes, I'm sure you, and we spoke about that earlier, right? So oil is here now, commercial quantities of oil. Guyana has joined um, the world, all those countries that are producing oil. We are now an oil producing country. Yes, weepy. But we are not a democracy. You know, I saw someone circulating a video to me, well, to a lot of people, but I got it. And in that video, here was one guy asking an Arab about Dubai. And he's, why is Dubai so successful? So the guy is saying, look, in Dubai we have nothing. In your country you have everything. You have gold, you have diamond, you have agriculture, you have oil. But in Dubai we only have one thing, good leadership. That's all he said. We have nothing. This is a desert, this is sand, but we have good leadership. And so with the blessings of oil, Dubai with its good leadership has been able to prosper. And that's the lesson. And good leadership has to come out of a democratic process. You can't have a good dictator. Ain't got nothing like a benevolent dictator. I don't know what's a benevolent dictator. Good leadership. You have to have leadership emerging from a democratic country. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, good night, Mr.
Good evening.
Good evening. Look,
You're still on the air.
oh, sorry about that, yeah. I would like to know, I see you mentioned something about the president making speech about oil revenue. Why is not he supposed to be dissolving the parliament and get on with preparation for the election?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the minister, I watching some ads with the minister going and making thing, but the bridge from Suriname to Guyana, Ali, the minister, what's his name? Yes. These are things that, it sick people's stomach. The youngsters in the street just smoking. You come in the Charlestown area, this has been 5 years, sir. I've been going through the nice nuisance. You're calling the police station, and the police coming and seeing these people with these articles, with this music box, and they're not seizing it and put them before the court.
Mm-hmm.
Yes? My mother has running to the station over and over to different commanders, and up to now, no justice.
So which part of Charlestown?
In Link Street, sir.
Link Street, okay.
Yeah. This thing is overbearing. All what they got, the whole set of youngsters, you come through the street in the evening time, the music is 3, 4 them, and they sit down gambling, thieving, robbing people, and the individual, one of the individual, my mother's called, but 8 times tonight. She's a prison warder, and she got the shop right opposite me, making the noise with her children there. And when the police come, always black people. I'll tell you, there's always black people. We are fighting with them. This is real time. Yeah, that is what she's telling the police over years, over 5 years, sir, over 5 years.
Okay, Paul. Well, we gotta keep at it. Don't let's give up. And the moment you start talking like that, I'm sure somebody will call and say you're racist.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Let somebody else come through, right? Thanks. Okay, so noise nuisance has been an issue. We got to do something about it. You don't have the luxury of impinging on another person's right. That's not the democracy. You don't have the luxury of denying a person their rights. Okay, so we missed a few calls early on. And I know there was one guy trying from the United States to get through. He sees the program on a delay, but he wanted to make a contribution today on the program. So if he comes through, I'll give him a little priority, right? Yes. So a lot of talk now about oil. It's going to be all on the news, on the news, the front pages of the newspapers tomorrow. Seeing all this oil gushing out of the sea, literally, and all about the potential that this oil wealth has for doing good for everyone. We're going to get a chance to compare the records of the past PPPC administration and this one. Hi, good evening. You're on the air. Hold no bars.
Well, good evening, Mr. Nadir.
Good evening.
Peace and greetings to you, man.
All the best to you too and your family.
Okay. I hear that you're talking about the oil. We get the oil produced today.
Yes. I'm seeing a lot of the flashes coming down the newspaper. The electronic news that oil.
I'm wondering to know if you get oil through the pipe and you get oil to bathe with and so on. It's a lot of oil. And we getting all this oil and the light bill raise, the water bill raise, people's salary raising. Only the minister and the people in the high office salary raise. What happened to the poorer class of people?
Well,
the poor class of people don't have a Christmas. The big boys them have Christmas.
right.
You know, there is nothing there for the poor people. Nothing for the poorer class of people.
You know, one of the best slogans I've seen was one by Boise Ramkaran. I shouldn't say seen. I've learned of, because I wasn't around at that time, and he's talking about the same thing. And he says, the politicians eating mutton and the people eating nothing.
Nothing. Yeah. You know, I see that even much person dressed up like with the Santa Claus, but they had no way to remove no way.
Yeah, the Santa Claus them were very upset.
People ain't got money. People ain't got no money. Where they going to spend fun? People they even can't go see Santa children to see Santa Claus. You know if any one of the ministers that they dress up with the Santa Claus who are running parliament, if they could make themselves available for the small children, you know, I hope if they could do that.
Okay, pal. Well,
okay, thanks.
all the best to you and your family and to all of our listeners.
And I wish Irfan all the best. For 2020, Irfan will be the next president for this country.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks.
All the best. Good. Yes. So oil is gushing this today. Oil is gushing out of the ground, through the sea, and into the floating production, storage, and offloading platform, the Lisa Destiny. Guyana, I see, will be have signed a deal for the first 3 million barrels of its oil, and left me a bit perplexed. I'm going to deal with that as we come into the new year, as I read and investigate more, because from my initial calculations, we're going to have our 2% will be less than 1 million barrels of oil in the first year. So if Dr. Bino is signing for 3 billion barrels of our oil, he's signing for production 3 years into the future. Hi, good evening. You're on the air.
Hi, good night, sir.
Good evening.
How are you doing?
All is good, man.
We go see you next week?
Yes. Hold no bars.
But next week, you know, so where we go see you?
Right.
Boxing Day.
It's Boxing Day because it's Friday. Boxing Day is not Thursday.
Boxing Day not after Christmas?
The day after Christmas. When is Christmas? Christmas is Wednesday, man. Which calendar are you looking at?
I thought it's Thursday, man.
No, man. No.
Excuse me, man. I'm getting gray.
Okay, but
You know,
even if it was Boxing Day, we were still going to be on the program.
yesterday.
Yeah.
It is nice to hear. At least you're in reality, right? I can read something to you about reality just now. But the lady was calling, the person calling and talk about the 60s, right?
Uh-huh.
Let me explain to you a little understanding I got about this violence that repeatedly happening from since the 60s, maybe, so maybe the last 2 elections ago, one election we did have it, right?
Right.
If you create a predetermined history of intimidating and terrorizing people, right? What you will have in the future, that when these parties make a decision, there will be compliance. by the other party.
Mm-hmm.
Because the other party has to have, as they would say, at the back of their head,
Mm-hmm.
right? What it would be the outcome if they don't comply.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that, like when they do calling for the credible list, remember what the guy said?
Right.
He said you must have at the back of your head if you want these developments to be destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Yeah.
So the economic history of all these violence is to influence future decisions.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? All these stratagems that the Europeans use is
Mm-hmm.
not new. It's new to us because we don't know about it.
Mm-hmm.
But having these violence coming down from election after election is to create an understanding that if it doesn't go in our way,
Mm-hmm.
this will be the penalty. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So, like the chairman, she's sitting down there. You think she could make any decision contrary to what Vincent Alexander wants?
Mm-hmm.
She gotta got it back of her head. You understand? If things don't go in a certain way, what will be the consequence? So you gotta understand, and I got the terrorists and the dictionary here. Here was the meaning of terrorist.
Tell
The
me.
use of violent acts to frighten people
Mhm.
in an area as a way of trying to achieve a political goal. Right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me read out to you. Politicians, when they are in the opposition, they embrace the philosophy of realism
Mm-hmm.
and have logical reasoning and seems to know the solution to all the problems.
Right.
But when they get into government and fail to solve the problem
Mm-hmm.
and keep their promises, they gravitate towards a new philosophy, which is nominalism, meaning this is where reality exists only in the mind. So they go into a kind of delusionary philosophy when they reach it because they couldn't solve all the problem with a promise.
Mm-hmm.
You understand that they could solve. So they abandon the realism philosophy and they adopt nominalism.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I got one more thing here. I see the GCOM chairman, she was trying to absolve or trying to, what's the word? The CEO, right?
Yeah, yeah.
She was trying for polish him off, right?
Mhm.
He had the experience and so on and so on, so, right? She was trying for vouch for him.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I see the GCOM chair engaged in a lot of what you call sophisticated sophistry, right? Sophistry means a lot of arguments that sound not right,
Mm-hmm.
but really invalid. And it's a form of deceitfulness. It's not really, they have no substance,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Well, I was going to use one word, fluff.
Huh?
I was going to use fluff.
Fluff?
Yes.
All right, you know, sophistry is the correct word, or sophism, right? He may be competent, the CEO may be competent, right?
Uh-huh.
But he's not an equitable person, meaning he's not a fair person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sir, thanks for that. This afternoon.
Great, man. So I want to thank that person. We had a caller earlier this evening talking about we should educate. This is my regular educator. So tonight we had a good little insight into a few words that have a lot of significance for where we are today. Good, and thanks again to that caller. We have just about 5 minutes remaining on the program, and again, let's refresh a bit about the current exercise that is happening. 20,556 names were put on a list and given to the political parties and said, hey, this is the list of new registrants according to our records. There was a lot of opposition by Dr. Jagdeo and the PPP against the inclusion of this list in the new revised list to come out. Not only that, we insisted that there be physical verification of these 20,556 persons. Hi, good evening. You're on the air.
Hi, good evening, good evening. I would like to wish you Merry Christmas and Sweet New Year.
Thank you very much, and from us to you and your family also.
I just want to know, if producing, right?
Uh-huh.
When I come, but is there a plan to, if
Mm-hmm.
prepare for it?
I am going to say no, we are not.
Thank you, sir. That's my point.
Thank you. Good. Yeah, I don't think we are prepared for it. Okay, so yes, now this 20,556 names, we had a lot of objections to them in being included, and we asked for verification. As we made those objections, GCOM, in a split decision, took a decision to verify. And in so doing, they went back to their own desk exercise, and just as we did, they found thousands of names in the 20,556 as perfect matches. So I think they have now put those aside, and they have a few thousand names to go through. They have given themselves 4 days for the exercise. The exercise started yesterday, I think it was, and it's supposed to conclude on Sunday. 4 days. The chief elections officer said he is going to do a team to cover 25 persons. So that's the breakdown. So if a team covers 25 persons, you have a chance to cover a minimum of 6 or 7 persons a day. Noting that when I go to a location today, I might not find the person, so I have to leave a note saying I will come back at a particular time so that I can verify if the person I missed is a registered legal person at that address. So this exercise is supposed to conclude on Sunday. And at the conclusion of that, we're going to hear that we found so many persons who are for the duplicates. We're going to hear who are genuine new registrants, and we're going to hear about how many persons are the same except addresses, spelling, and so, right? So this exercise is going to help in terms of transparency in elections. The other reassuring development in this last week was the fact that I think it was the Ghanaian former chief elections officer is here, and a former chief elections officer from India is here, and we already had a former chief elections officer from Canada here. They, along with a few more technical experts, will be stationed permanently in GCOM to offer advice and guidance to the chair and also to the secretariat. But the law doesn't provide for any advisor to tell the chief elections officer what to do. The chief elections officer has a law, and he will, I'm confident, interpret that law as he sees fit if he doesn't take guidance from GCOM. So it's an assuring factor, no guarantee as yet. The struggle to have free and fair elections is going to be waged until the end. So my message to you is you have to organize, you have to mobilize, and you're going to have to exercise your franchise. So with that, I see Kevin waving his hands that it's time, 11:30. I know we were a few minutes late, but again, this is our first Christmas, Hold No Bars, first Christmas on the air. So on behalf of Kevin, the directors of MTV, and on behalf of the family and I, we want to wish you a very Merry Christmas 2019. We trust that Santa is going to, in these pretty rough times, still produce the goods that our children want to make them extremely happy on this Christmas 2019. So from all of us, Merry Christmas to you and your family. Good night.